All right, Shalom. I want to start by giving our praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who teach and rule well, and also to their elders, the men that taught them. I pray the Lord have peace, blessings, and mercy upon the households of the hopeful elect. This is the brother Shemai Wan from the Great Millstone Houston Church. And today I want to come into a lesson. Today I want to go into a lesson. The riots and the protests that are going on in LA. And as you can see, it's stirring up the nation. But it's a part of biblical prophecy. All right. And really, this morning, I typed it to myself. It was questions. It was two questions asked. One was a question and the other one was a statement. But the question was from somebody I work with, one of the managers. He's a Jake, and he said, "Will the riot spread or get worse?" You know, just asking like if people had the answers, and they just telling you, other coworkers are just letting it spill what they think. But according to the Bible, we can stand on a firm foundation and, understand accurately, what's to come. Mind you, he didn't get an answer, or I didn't answer that question. Just hearing it just made me think about the scriptures, because this is what we stand on. And according to biblical prophecy, these things are going to happen in the last days. And we see them right now popping off. All right. And I got, this shouldn't be too long, but I got a website that kind of sheds light on the riots, tracking them where they are, the activities going on. And I got 2 precepts lined up. But yeah, that's it. I'm not even going to go into the other statement that was made. But first, let's go to this website, No Kings Protest. And it gives you somewhat of a accurate update. As you can see, 6 hours ago, 2 hours ago. This is on ABC News. It says progressives holding No King's Day protest across the U.S. to counter Trump and military parade. And this was today at 2:32 p.m. So reading down a little bit, it says progressive groups say they'll hold more than 1,500 No King's Day events across the U.S. on Saturday to protest the Trump administration and to counter the military parade in Washington, D.C., making the U.S. Army's 250th birthday. And coming across this, just more proof of how much or how close we are to the end of this thing. Let's go here. Let me open up a new tab. Let's see. Come on, bro. Come on. Hold on. How long does a kingdom or a dynasty last? According to history. Let's see what they say. Just a Google lookup, typed in how long does a kingdom last? The kingdom or dynasty lasts according to history. It says kingdoms or dynasties can last for centuries and even millennia, but they don't typically last forever. While some kingdoms and dynasties have existed for incredibly long periods, others have fallen relatively quickly. The average lifespan of an empire for example, is estimated to be around 250 years, according to some studies. And according to the studies, is accurate. I think it says from 250 years to like 300, roughly, but average. But looking that up, because where were we? Right here, going back to the article on ABC News. Jumping in, it says progressive groups say they'll hold more than 1,500 No King's Day events across the United States on Saturday to protest the Trump administration and to counter the military parade in Washington, D.C., making the U.S. Army's 250th birthday. And this is according to the history books, we're at the end of this thing, man. 250, hey, that marks a significant accolade, all right, which appoints the end of the rulership of these Edomites. And as you can see, uproars and risings of the people, rebellion, all of this stuff is biblical. Let's go to another one. This is 2 hours ago. It says anti-Trump protests planned in D.C. area on day of military parade. Protest events planned for June 14th. And as you can see, all of these little spots, I guess, indicate where protests are popping off or planned to happen across the United States. But it says protesters, and this is, you can see it on the screen. It says protesters in the DMV and nationwide are organizing anti-President Trump rallies to run counter to the June 14th military parade, provoking an angry response on Tuesday from Trump himself. It says why it matters. Organizers expect it to be the country's largest single-day anti-Trump rally since the start of the administration, concording with 7,000 soldiers parading in D.C. and as thousands of troops deploy to unrest in Los Angeles. I'll read this last part. It says, state of play, millions of people are estimated to show out for No Kings protest in more than 1,500 cities across all 50 states and Commonwealth's organizers say. So shit is turning up. All right, this is not a small matter. All right, we're waiting patiently, for things to pop off, and here you go. It's active. But this is a website, to keep track of what's going on with this protesting and shit. I know I saw something about Houston earlier. It might be right here. Nope. I'm just looking as I go. I know I came across something that was popping off in Houston. But, right here. It says No Kings Houston. Let's see. Nationwide Day of Defiance, June 14th, 2025. Hey, downtown Houston on Bagby Street is going down, according to this website. And it got the button if you want to attend that thing. But it says about this event, it says, in America, we don't put up with would-be kings. No Kings is a national day of action in mass mobilization in response to increasing authoritarian accesses and corruption from Trump and his allies. We've watched as they've cracked down on free speech, detained people for their political views, threatened to deport American citizens, and defied the courts. They've done this all while continuing to serve and enrich their billionaire allies. So it says on Saturday, June 14th, we're taking to the streets nationwide. We're not gathering to feed his ego. We're building a movement that leaves him behind. The flag doesn't belong to Donald Trump. It belongs to us. We're not watching history happen. We're making it. No, you're fulfilling prophecy. And that's the comfort that we have in these scriptures. And let's go to it. First one, let's get 2nd Ezra 15 and 14 in the GNT. All right, this is 2nd Ezra GNT. Yep, I did say the GNT. Let's go to that. This is 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, and verse 14 in the GNT. It says, "The world and the people in it are doomed. The war that will bring their destruction is..." Come on, man. It says, "The war that will bring their destruction is very near. Nations will arm themselves and fight against other nations." And that's the end all be all. World War III. All these things, taking place, it's all to fuel the fire. All right. It's not no small thing of civil unrest and people rising up and even going to clock. These things aren't just taking place in America. There's riots and protests going on in other countries, for their problems. So it's not just one, event just taking place and all eyes are on America. No, shit is popping off all over. They got shit going on in France. I saw a post. Had a few other countries in there too, showing police cars on fire and people out there protesting and damn near rioting. But it says the war that will bring their destruction is very near. And that's talking about World War III, the war of Armageddon. Nations will arm themselves and fight against other nations. There will be great political turmoil with one group trying to overpower another and gain control while ignoring the legitimate government. And ignoring the legitimate government is what you see taking place in LA right now. And two, mind you, we're dealing with Esau. This man is a liar. It's in his make to lie and to cover up things and hide. But a post I saw, it went into how a lot of these protesters or these people, in the mix of throwing rocks and bricks and stones at these cops and causing all type of trouble in the streets, a lot of them are on the payroll. So just keeping that in mind, all of this shit is planned at the end of the day. The Lord gave the ability for Esau to take peace from the earth. And it's not just going to be out of hand. It's going to be like a control. This devil has a special gift on taking peace from the earth, and it's planned. All right. So don't think for 1 second as if this shit is just, just happening all out of a sudden. No, this is a part of biblical prophecy, like I keep saying. And we're reading about it. All right. The Lord put the spirit in this man to make these moves. And he's a cunning and crafty hunter and a damn devil who will lie. All right. So just paying attention to the times we're in and understanding these scriptures, it will help us, stay locked in rather than getting distracted by, the false flags, so to speak. Keeping our eye focused on prophecy helps us stay away from being confused or thrown off at certain things. All right. You can't get outside of prophecy. All right. And that's an important statement I want to make, because Christianity doesn't go into prophecy. You won't go into prophecy in any other religion. All right. That's why understanding who you learn from and who you're listening to is important. Stay in tune with those that are touching on, prophecies. All right. A lot of Israelite camps want to teach peace and prosperity. But according to the scriptures, let's get it. Jeremiah 28:8. It says, "The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence." And this is something that's taking place right now. It's not time for peace. You know how it says in Ecclesiastes 3, the 3rd chapter, there's a season for every purpose. And right now it's not for peace. Right now is time for war. All right? Because Yahweh Shai is coming back to cause one of the greatest events to take place on the earth, by an overthrow. The Lord is bringing war to America and, the earth overall. But we're in pretty much, it's like we're in the birth pains, them contractions. Shit is making noise now. But verse 16 again, 2nd Ezra, chapter 15 and 16 in the GNT, it says, there will be great political turmoil with one group trying to overpower another and gain control while ignoring the legitimate government. It says there will no longer be free access to cities if as these things continue to cause an uproar. You got Trump bringing in the National Guard. All of this points to the fact of, especially whenever he, that right here, I got it pulled up. What is the insurrection law? Whenever Donald Trump pulls this card out his back pocket, that's whenever you're really gonna see 2nd Ezra 15 in verse. Where was I at? Oh, I'm in the GNT, Salakia. Let me go back to it. 2nd Ezra 15 in verse 17. 2nd Ezra 15 and 17 pop off. There will no longer be free access to the cities. Why? Because the struggle for power will bring destruction. People coming against Trump. A kingdom divided. It can't stand. Yahweh Shai said it. Because the struggle for power will bring destruction, terror, and total confusion wherever people live. And that's in the making, especially with this insurrection law. Let's go to it. I just typed in on Google, what is the Insurrection Act? There we go, Insurrection Act. On the AI overview, it says, the Insurrection Act, primarily enacted in 1807, grants the President of the United States broad authority to use the U.S. military to suppress domestic unrests, including insurrections. Real quick, let's just look it up because it means the word right next to a rebellion. Insurrection, it says a violent uprising against an authority or government, also known as a rebellion. So it says including insurrections, rebellions, or other instances where state or federal laws are being obstructed or cannot be enforced. This authority allows the development of the National Guard, which is happening today. The calls are made, and federal armed forces to restore order and ensure the enforcement of law. And these things are taking place so accurate where the Wadi Yahweh Bashim Yahweh for allowing us to see these things unfold, man. These prophecies are popping off and are lively in our time. And understanding where we at. We're at the end of this thing, man. Real quick. Let me pull up another tab in the GNT. 2nd Ezra chapter 14. It shows you how close we are to the end. 2nd Ezra chapter 14 in verse 10. In the GNT, it says, the world is no longer young. It is rapidly approaching old age. The whole history of the world is divided into 12 periods. And the 10th period has already arrived. And it is half over. Only 2.5 parts remain. And mind you, this is the book of 2nd Ezra we're reading. And roughly around the time of 450 BC, before Yahweh Shah was on the scene. So during his time, the scriptures say the whole history of the world, in verse 11 again in the GNT, The whole history of the world is divided into 12 periods. And mind you, in his time, it is saying, and the 10th period has already arrived. And it is half over. So imagine that, how close we are to the end. Only 2.5 parts remain. You know, we're here in the last times, man. All right. So let's go back. 2nd Ezra chapter 15 and verse. That was the point. Let me get my last precept. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 19. And I'm going to stay in the GNT. Isaiah chapter 19. And we'll start at the top. It says, Isaiah 19:1 in the GNT, it says, "This is a message about Egypt. The Lord is coming to Egypt, riding swiftly on a cloud. The Egyptian idols tremble before him, and the people of Egypt lose their courage." Verse 2, "The Lord says, I will stir up civil war in Egypt." And understanding this Egypt is talking about what's written in Revelation 11. Let's go to it. Spiritual Egypt. See, everybody want to be spiritual when it comes to being an Israelite, but they can't compare spiritual Egypt to America. That's crazy. Revelation 11:8, it says, "And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom in Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified." And this is talking about America, that great city, which is spiritually called Sodom in Egypt. It's talking about Babylon the Great, aka America. So going back to Isaiah 19:2 in the GNT, and mind you, this is talking about spiritual Egypt because this is where the Lord is going to make his return. In verse 1, it says, "This is a message about Egypt, America. The Lord is coming to Egypt. The Lord is coming to America, riding swiftly on a cloud." What is that talking about? He's coming back on a chariot, man. The Lord is coming back with the chariots, okay? Not a UFO, not a UAP. Just like how the Lord got taken away whenever he got caught up into the heavens, and the angel said the same way he was taken, that's the same way he's returning. That's what it's talking about. That's why it talks about in Wisdom of Solomon, the 5th chapter, the salvation of the Israelites is going to be strange, something that nobody looked, to happen. But going back to verse 2, Isaiah 19:2, "The Lord says, I will stir up civil war in Egypt," which is talking about America, "and turn brother against brother and neighbor against neighbor. Rival cities will fight each other and rival kings will struggle for power." This shit is being stirred up in a pot. As you can see, well, I'm watching this right now. What is this? Fox News. It's just showing everything going on in LA. And, right now it's showing downtown. What does it say? Day 5 of anti-ICE protests in downtown Los Angeles. And these things are going to continue to increase. Why? Because the scriptures say it. All right. It's going to be a time like never before. And this is the build up to that time coming. But it says, yeah, that's the point. That's the point. I just wanted to get that real quick. But this is all according to prophecy, So we are in some exciting times. Like 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter talks about, let's see if I can find that. Talks about, the pretty much, it's better to be alive to see these things unfold, man. 2nd Ezra chapter 13. Let me see if I can find it. Right here. 2nd Ezra 13, and let's jump in at verse 21. Hold up. 2nd Ezra 13, and damn. Let's start at 15. Second Ezra, what is this? Second Ezra chapter 13 and 15 in the GNT. It says, "Now please show me the meaning of this dream also." And this is Ezra. He's been given visions and dreams, and the Lord allowed the archangel Uriel to deal with him. And this is, continuing on. It says, Second Ezra 13 and 15 in the GNT. "Now please show me the meaning of this dream also. I have been thinking how terrible it will be for the people who will be living in those days," speaking about the last days, whenever this shit is really popping off. It says, "But how much worse for those who do not survive." Okay? So let's keep reading. It says, "They will be in great sorrow because they will not enjoy any of the pleasures reserved for the last days." And some of the pleasures reserved for the last days is seeing the Lord come through on his word, man. Thinking about prophecies that talk about how, the Lord's servants are going to eat, they're going to drink. We won't have to worry about the shit that's needed for us. Thinking about Matthew, the 6th chapter, how Yahweh Shai made the point. We don't have to worry about what we going to eat or what we going to drink or what we go wear. Just certain scriptures that come to mind whenever things are really going to be tight. All right. But it goes into saying, verse 18 again, so those who don't survive, it says they will not, because they will not enjoy any of the pleasures reserved for the last days. And another one is seeing the downfall of your enemy. What is that? Sirach 25 and 7. I got my apocrypha open. Let me go to it real quick. Sirach 25 and verse 7. It reads, "There be 9 things which I have judged in mine heart to be happy. And the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that hath joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy." And that's one of the pleasures. All right. To see the fall of your enemy. Why is that said? Because it's according to prophecy. Zacharias mentioned that. What am I looking for? Luke chapter 1 in where we at? Luke chapter 1 and 71. I'm going to read through. Start at 67. It says, Luke 1 and 67, it says, "And his father Zacharias," speaking about John the Baptist, his father, "was filled with the Holy Spirit and prophesied, saying, Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, for he hath visited and redeemed his people, and hath raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he spake by the mouth of his holy prophets, which have been since the world began, that we should be saved from our enemies and from the hand of all that hate us." And this is still going on till this very day. These anti-ICE protests, who is ICE targeting? You Israelites, especially Northern Tribe, going through it right now. What is that in Jeremiah? How Northern Tribe got judged first, and Judah seen it and didn't change from their ways, and the Lord snatched their ass up too. It's all in the scriptures, man. But going back to it, 2nd Ezra 13 and verse 19 now. It says, "But how," in the GNT, it says, "But how terrible also for those who do survive." It says, "They will have to face great dangers and many troubles, as these dreams have shown." So showing you, a lot of people think at the end is going to be a time of peace. It is going to be like the days of Noah, just to build and to prosper and to continue to add. No, it's about to be a time to lose out on a lot of shit and sacrifice, your life. Pretty much, especially if you serve Yahweh Shai. All right. It tells you, ain't no such thing as entering into the kingdom unless you go through, tribulation. And also, I was reading something in Romans, I believe. Let me see if I could find it. Pretty much going into suffering with the Lord too, man. Hold up. If I can't find it, it's all right. Matter of fact, it was in the NLT. That's what it was. Because I remember the color I highlighted it in. Or I thought I did. But it's all good. Okay, no, I think I found it. I'm going to start at verse... let's see. I'm going to start at verse 15. Romans 8 and 15 in the NLT. It says, so you have not received a spirit that makes you fearful slaves. Instead, you received the Most High's Spirit when he adopted you as his own children. Now we call him Abba, Father. For his spirit joins with our spirit to affirm that we are the Most High's children. Verse 17, here's the point. It says, and since we are his children, we are his heirs. In fact, together with Hamashiach, we are heirs of the Most High's glory. But if we are to share his glory, we must also share his suffering. Yet, verse 18, yet what we suffer now is nothing compared to the glory he will reveal to us later. Going back to 2nd Ezra 13 in verse 19 in the GNT, it says, but how terrible also for those who do survive. They will have to face great dangers and many troubles, as these dreams have shown. And, speaking to those who got faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter tells you those who got faith in the Lord are going to be tried. But this is all a part of prophecy. These things have to happen so those who endure, can receive, the glory. It's no such thing as suffering, for the Lord's sake, and that's it. The sufferings that's written in these scriptures are for a reason, because a lot of people who don't have faith are going to break. Like it says up in 2nd Ezra chapter, 13. But 2nd Ezra 15 and 4, I think it tells you the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Yeah, that's 2nd Ezra 15 and 4. In the KJV, it says, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. All right. Verse 5, it says, behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and pestilence. It says, for wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. And the Lord is going to bring judgment because of that. Everything has an appointed time. But going back to the point, and I'll close out. Jumping in verse 20. 2nd Ezra 13 and 20 in the GNT. It says, nevertheless, it is better to pass through these dangers and reach the end. So being able to make it through those troubles, rather than, how does it say? Let's get another precept. Yahweh Shah said this. 1 second. This is John chapter 17 and verse 15. Nope, John 17, and let's start at verse 14. It says, I have given them thy word in the word. Nope, John 17 and 14 again. I have given them thy word, and the world hath hated them, because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. I pray not that thou shouldest take them out of the world, but that thou shouldest keep them from the evil. And that's what we got faith in. We want to be here to the end. And we got faith that if we are, the Lord will keep us from the evils. Okay? The Lord will keep us from the bad times. allowing us to be able to endure because he's going to be the way out. And we got faith in Yahushua, man. It ain't no such thing as what you're going to do. We can't do shit to get out of this situation. We literally need the Lord's help. And that's where our faith lies. But it says, verse 20 again, nevertheless, it is better to pass through these dangers and reach the end than to disappear like a cloud from this world and never see what takes place in the last days, he answered. All right, so just showing you. It's going to be exciting times, all the way from this point to the end. And this thing is popping off. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying to the Lord's elect. Again, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. The double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who teach and rule well. And Salakia. Let me read down to verse 23. All right, 2nd Ezra 13 and 21 in the GNT. It says, I will explain to you the meaning of the vision and answer the questions you have asked. Verse 22, you have raised questions about those who will survive until the end. The answer is that the one who brings the dangers in those days will also protect from danger the people who have stored up good works and faithfulness with the Most High, the Almighty One. And there you go. That's it. So showing you works and faith go hand in hand. All right. So I'll end it there. Till the next time I say, Shalom.